Mark. I'm Canadian. I'm in my early 60s, and I've had a long career working in international development, mostly in the education sector, helping developing countries improve their education systems. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology, a master's degree in linguistics, and a doctorate degree in education. And I am originally from Canada, but I've been living in Washington, D.C. for the last 28 years because that's where my company is headquartered. And I have pivoted into psychotherapy as I retire from my work in international development. I've been a client of therapy for my entire adult life, so I'm familiar with the process and with the language of therapy. And I'm someone that people often come to for advice and guidance, so I feel like this is a natural fit for me. I'm the father of a 14-year-old son, so I know about the challenges of raising kids, and especially teenagers, which can be up and down. And I'm also a gay man, so I have an understanding of people that come from marginalized groups and what that can mean in someone's life and their family and their community. I speak French, Spanish, Nepali, and the language in Bhutan. So I'm keen on language learning. So I feel like I have plenty to offer in the psychotherapy space. So I've been in this program now for nearly 2 years. So I've been actively involved in completing all of the coursework, which I have found super interesting and very engaging. And as I mentioned, I've been a client of psychotherapy since I was in my 20s. So that's a very long time now, 40 years. And I've been fortunate to have the same therapist now for 27 years, which is quite remarkable. She remembers stuff that even I forgot. And I think that, during times of crisis, it's great to have that support. And even when you're not in a crisis, it's always, helpful to have someone who can hear you out, help you think through issues, dynamics in relationships, where you're going in your own life. And you just know that they're there for you and they're fully engaged in supporting you and accompanying you on your journey as you navigate life. So in addition to my day job, my company also has a fitness center. So I teach yoga at the fitness center 3 times a week. I'm also the vice chair of our staff union. So I'm very much involved in supporting staff in the workplace. I like to ski, play tennis, swim. I feel very blessed to have a cottage on a lake in Ontario. So I go there in the summer for my downtime. That's my happy place. And I do a lot of canoeing, swimming, etc. One issue that speaks to me, there's a couple. One is couples therapy, helping couples learn how to communicate in a more effective way. I'm also very interested in supporting youth who are confronted with gender identity issues. And the common approach has been affirmation, which I think is not necessarily the best way to go. I think what really is called for is in-depth psychotherapy so that we can really understand what's going on before someone goes down sometimes an irreversible pathway of social and medical transition. And I'm particularly keen on supporting youth understand where their gender identity issues are coming from. And I don't think it's as simple as saying they're born in the wrong body. I think there's more to be talked about and to be uncovered. So I take a mostly psychodynamic approach. I'll, of course, draw on other approaches like CBT, etc. But psychodynamic, I like to sort of go deep into what people are really feeling, what happened to them in the past, what were the sort of characteristics of foundational relationships they had when they were young, with parents, siblings, friends, and others, and really helping people sort of go back in time and re-experience issues and feelings that might have been sort of difficult at that moment earlier on in life to manage, and in a different moment in their life later on to be able to work through with the help of a therapist. So my approach is mostly what's called psychodynamic. So I'm quite keen on Gestalt therapy. And one of the techniques in Gestalt is to do with, well, a well-known technique in Gestalt is called empty chair, where you speak to someone in an empty chair across from you as if you're pretending that they're there. And that lets things come up in a very safe environment. You're able to speak honestly and authentically, and that helps you untangle earlier conflicts and difficult feelings. And I'm also, given that I'm also a yoga instructor, I'm also very keen on mindfulness-based approaches where we really center into the present moment, focusing on the breath, becoming, letting the mind calm down. We're typically either worrying about things that haven't happened yet, or we're regretting things that already happened. So we're either in the future or in the past. It's very hard for us to stay in the present moment. So mindfulness-based approaches I also find to be very helpful. And I'm also a real proponent of sleep hygiene. A lot of people, when they tell me about their lives and their issues and their crises, and then I ask them about their sleep is terrible. And if you don't have good regular sleep, it's really hard to get on top of all the rest of it. So I've lived abroad for many years. I lived in Africa for 6 years. I lived in Asia for 14 years. And I feel very at ease in being in different societies and different cultures. In terms of the therapy space and what that means from a cross-cultural perspective, the key is to let the client inform you, the therapist, of what their reality, their perspectives, what they bring from their own culture into the understanding and analysis and discussion of their own issues. And I try to not assume anything. Having had some experience in different cultures, I lived in West Africa and Central Africa for many years. And again, as I mentioned, in Asia, often in more traditional cultures, the family unit is very important, and people are very occupied with what parents will think and what granny will think and what the aunties will think. So I respect that, but I also want people to come into their own sense of self. And you often find people that are kind of have 2 feet in different cultures. Maybe they studied abroad in the UK or US or wherever, yet they're still back in their home country, and they're a bit conflicted because they feel more westernized, yet they have to sort of have to conform to the expectations of their home country and their family. So that's a difficult path to walk down, but I have a sense of it because I've lived in those countries myself, and I've had many friends from different cultures, and they have shared with me, not in a therapy way, but in a friendship way, some of their own struggles in that regard. So I do feel that I have some ability to work with people in that way. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the same with people from my own culture. When you feel like someone has come into their own skin and feels more relaxed and in control of their life, that's very rewarding as a therapist. In terms of the cross-cultural thing, if you can sort of help people get distance from their own culture and be able to understand it as if they're observing it from a little bit far away, that can often bring people a kind of objectivity that allows them to think more clearly about what really works for them and what doesn't. And I think when people feel empowered to exist in their own culture on their own terms, that's a very good thing, because it lets people be at ease. Well, by listening to begin with, and certainly by encouraging the client to be open and honest, and reinforcing for the client that this time, this 50 minutes or 60 minutes or however long the session is their time, and I'm here only to listen and engage with them in dialogue. So first of all, to let the client know that what happens in the session is completely confidential, that they have my full and undivided attention. And, especially in the beginning of establishing the therapeutic relationship, it's really important that the client gets the time and the space to really say what's on their mind and share with the therapist what constraints they're living within, what fears they have, what inhibitions they have, what strengths they have, and really let the client share all of that over time. It doesn't mean that in the first couple sessions I don't do any talking. I'll be probing, I'll be asking, I'll be inquiring, I'll be challenging sometimes. But the initial stages are really important for the client to really tell their own story. And once I feel like I have a grasp of that, then the real dialogue begins. Well, for one thing, when they say it's really been nice to work with you, Mark, for the last 6 months, but I don't think I need to come back. That's a great thing to hear, because our job is to put ourselves out of a job, meaning to get the client to a place where they don't feel that they need to come to therapy anymore, and that they can come back at another time if they feel like they need it. Life always will give you curveballs now and then, and you might want to come back and get that support. But I think the real litmus test is when therapy ends and someone says, gee, I really made a lot of progress. I feel strong. I feel confident. I feel like I can face the next challenge on my own. I've learned a lot from this process. Thank you very much. And goodbye. That's for me when success has been met. But also, even if the therapeutic relationship continues, when the client is coming back every week with a better grasp on their own life and how they can manage it, and they tell you that, that's a real indication that you're making progress. Doesn't mean there won't be bumps in the road further down. Of course, that's just the nature of life. But if you see a steady increase in their confidence and their ability to stay calm, measured, and really in control of their own lives and their relationships, then that's a real indication that progress is being made. Well, education, you're working, I taught junior high school and primary school. And when I was overseas in a little country in Asia called Bhutan, I was teaching in a boarding school where you're kind of like the kid's parent because they're living at the school. And you end up being the parent and the counselor and the disciplinarian and the teacher. So you embody a whole bunch of roles. So I've always felt an affinity to, especially, helping young people, teens, and older children be able to make good choices, think about their choices, think about consequences, and really understand how they can mature into responsible adults eventually. But also, I find myself, just as a friend to many of my friends, being the one that is kind of there for people to tell me stuff that they don't feel necessarily comfortable telling other people. And I don't know what it is in my character that makes those friends feel that they can be open and honest with me. But I'm glad I have that in my character because I welcome it. I'm there to help friends. That's what friends are there for. But that's an important distinction between therapy and friendships. And that's why therapy is so valuable. Therapy is a time where it's not your family and it's not your friend, where you can be honest and open, and you don't have to worry about what else is happening in that relationship with that person. With the therapist, it's only one thing, therapy. With friends, it can have a whole bunch of other strands. They lent you money or you lent them money. I mean, there can be all sorts of things in friendships that can make giving therapy to friends complicated. Well, first of all, I make sure I get enough sleep. I'm very strict. I get exactly 8 hours minimum every night. I go to bed at the same time. I do yoga. I meditate. So I think it's like on the very well used analogy of on the airplane, when the mask falls down, put on your own mask first and then help your kid or your friend or your older adult. I take care of myself first because I can't really be available to other people if I'm not in good shape, mentally and physically. And burnout, you just need to also rely on your network of colleagues, where if you're confounded by a client situation or you feel like a session maybe didn't go well and you don't understand what to do next, turn to a senior, more experienced colleague and talk it out. So, it's important to have a network of colleagues that you can rely on. I'm looking to see other demographics, especially adults and in couples. But on the gender identity thing, I think it's really important that teens get the right support and advice, because teenage years are all about identity. That's what teenage means. You're changing from a child to an adult. So it's all about your identity. And if someone comes along and tells you you must be born in the wrong body, that can be a very powerful message that for some kids who are troubled, have other comorbidities, anxiety, depression, sexual trauma, whatever, being told that can be very appealing. Oh, if I just change my gender, my whole life will be great. And that's not how it works. So on that one issue, gender, I'm interested in working with teens to help them navigate that and not to go down the wrong path. Clients should expect to feel very much at ease being with someone who is really there to listen to them and will be very empathetic, yet will also in the appropriate moments be gently challenging to really make them think more deeply and feel more deeply about what's coming up for them and to be honest about it, because that's where you make the real progress. It's not by dancing around the issues, it's by getting into the issues. And when the pressure's too much, we can back off and come back to it later. But I think clients should understand that they have an empathetic, genuine person on the other side of the dialogue with them, who is really there to link arms and move forward with them in a very supportive way, but not agree with everything. Be able to say, look, I think you should think again about this. Let's talk more about that. You said so-and-so feels that way. How do you know they feel that way? Is that what they really feel, or is that what you think they feel? Like really that kind of gentle challenging to make people sort of go a bit deeper. I always say to people who I've often told friends, they're telling me something and I'll say, you should maybe think of going into therapy. I equate it to buying a car. If you test drive a car, just take it around the block a few times and you don't like the car, that doesn't mean you shouldn't buy a car. It means you should test drive another car. So the first time you have a new therapist, if you come out of the session saying to yourself, oh, I want to talk to him again, that's a good sign. That might be a good connection. If you come out of that first session and go, oh, I didn't really feel like it connected, that's okay. That's no problem. It's like buying a car. Just because you test drove one that you didn't like, it doesn't mean you don't have to do it. Just try it again. So I often say, if you don't feel comfortable with the first clinician you're with, try another one. And maybe it will take 2 or 3 until you find someone you click with. And that's what's really important, is the therapeutic bond, the relationship. And it doesn't always happen the first time. So I tell people not to be discouraged.